You didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park fans drift in jerseys. Legacy bold, the metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets Pregame Show right here on the channel and on X. And as I spoke to you last night, hoping to speak to you today about a New York Mets victory, they have failed yet again. Losers of 7 of their last 8. And it's just a complete disaster. Let's be honest about that. It's a disaster from managing. It's a disaster from running this organization with David Stearns, with Carlos Mendoza. It trickles down to the lineup, trickles down to the rotation, and eventually trickles down to the bullpen. Every single time I bring up one or the other, it seems to be a continued problem. And the funny thing is that Clay Holmes actually was pitching well yesterday. And because this guy is so gassed that they took him out at 75 pitches. What the hell are we doing, Mets fans? What are we doing? If he's not going to go deeper into games now, when is he going to do it? Because him not going deeper into games when he wasn't pitching well, right? There was no choice for Carlos Mendoza. But the guy was finally pitching well with a semi-low pitch count. And you take him out of the game. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, it just spills more evidence out that you don't trust this guy, going deeper into a game and throwing 90-plus pitches. If that's the case, he should not be in this rotation. Either you don't trust him to do it or you let him go. Because you can't rely on David Peterson, who's pitching away, by the way, to continue to throw 6 innings or more. You can't rely on just him. I just don't understand the logic. I just don't. Either he can do it or he can't. If he can't do it, get him out of the rotation. It's very simple. I don't care who you put in there. Like, I truly don't. I just don't care. Take him out. Put him in the bullpen. Let him pitch whenever. And change it up. Put somebody else in rotation. Like, it's just stupid. It really doesn't make any sense. Like, you're going to track him back out there for another 2 starts by August 15th and then make decisions on the top pitching prospects. Yeah, Ray, but it's not even sabermetrics. It's just they don't trust him going past a certain amount of pitches. Like, he finally got over that hump of the 4th inning where it's been a problem. Yeah, he gave up a couple of runs, but he was still somewhat in control, right? A couple of blue pits here, a couple of, they weren't, crazy hard hit balls. They tied the game. All right, whatever. It is what it is. but he was still pitching fine. Like, he was still controlling the game. If Clay Holmes wasn't controlling the game and he just looked flustered and, he wasn't putting anybody away, okay. But he was fine. He was in control. He was doing a hell of a lot better than probably the last month of his starts. Leave him in there. It's either you don't trust him or he can't do it. Or it's both. And I'm going to go on both. Because when are you going to trust these guys? We're in August 6th. We needed to win yesterday to try to have a chance of winning the series. We're trying to stay within striking distance of the division. Now we're 2.5 games back. Like, you can't be messing around with these type of situations on August. And guys, go back to April. Listen to any show I talked about when it came to the pitching, the starting rotation. I said this. This wasn't going to be an April or May thing where they're going to, take guys out early because it's early in the season. I said it from jump. They are going to have these innings problems and these pitch count problems for the entire season if they don't change what they're doing. I said that. Go back to the shows in April and May. Me and Chris had difference of opinions about it. I wouldn't say arguments, but we had different opinions about it. Right? I understand doing it in April and May when you're just starting the season, to protect their innings. But you're in August. You shouldn't be protecting innings or protecting pitch counts in August. This is the dog days of summer. These are the last 47 games of the season to try to win a division, to try to stay in the playoffs for that matter. What are we doing here? Like we can't keep on playing the same game here. Like, sooner or later, you have to bite the bullet and let these guys stay on the mound. I told you this yesterday. The bullpen is going to get overused by the time the playoffs comes. And then everybody's going to bitch and moan when they're not good. And everybody's going to blame David Stearns for saying, oh, well, you should have got Mason Miller. He should have got this guy instead. He should have got Joan Duran instead of Helsley or Rogers or Soto. That's what's going to happen. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, when are we going to actually make these guys go deeper into games and throw 90 to 100 pitches consistently? You can't just do it. Oh, my God, we got a big game in September 15th. Oh, you know what? Hey, Clay, we need you. You got to throw 95 pitches. The guy hasn't done it since the last week in May. And now we're going to expect him to do it and also pitch well? Like, you gotta let these guys go. It just doesn't make sense. We're in August, and we're still talking about pitch counts. We're still talking about innings. We're still talking about guys being gassed. This is David Stearns failing to do what he needs to do. We got to stop acting like David Stearns is this fucking genius and act like the failures he's been putting on this team. He has the money, no excuse. He has the prospects, no excuse. If you're not going to trade for a proven starting pitcher in here that could actually give you innings and actually go 90 to 100 pitches in every start, then you got to trade. You got to do something. You got to bring up the kids and don't have restrictions on them. You're not doing that until August 15th because you want that year of control still. Okay, understandable. But you have the money to do it in the offseason, but your philosophy is not giving long-term deals to pitchers, which some people agree with, which you are idiots. Because every team you're going to face in the playoffs has an ace and probably has a very better number 2 than we do. And then when we lose, everybody's going to blame everything else except the main guy in David Stearns. Because here's the problem with bullpen, especially during the regular season, right? When you want to shorten a game in the playoffs, right, that comes into play more, absolutely. But when you're fighting for a division, when you're fighting for a playoff spot during the season, when you constantly get guys going 4 or 5 innings starting a game, and that's all they can do consistently, other than David Peterson, who can go to 6 innings or more. He's the only one consistently. When you constantly get guys going 4 or 5 innings, and even in a start where they were pitching well and you still take them out too early, you have to rely on 3, 4, possibly 5 relievers in a game that they have to be near perfect for you to be successful. That is very hard to do on a consistent basis. It really is. I just don't understand the logic. Like, the philosophy sucks. It's stupid. Why have a very good bullpen and stacked arms in the bullpen when you're gonna have to overuse them because everybody sucks in a rotation? I'm sorry. I don't care about your ERA when you're giving me 4 innings every other start. I just don't like it. It's stupid. Why wouldn't you build your bullpen like he did and go get a starter? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, right? You couldn't do anything with the lineup, so I'm not fighting anybody with the lineup. I'm not arguing about going to get somebody, a big bat for the lineup, because there really wasn't anybody out there except Eugenio Suarez. And that wasn't going to happen when he had 14 third basemen on the roster, which, oh, by the way, that's David Stearns' fault too, right? You got a log jam in the infield that is still here, by the way. You got a struggling rotation that has not been good since May. And then you revamp your bullpen because you needed to, which is understandable. But again, the same problems persist, consist of the same nonsense in your rotation from day one. Again, as soon as Chris comes back and he's back from vacation and all that good stuff as well, I really want to get his take, because we had our disagreements, we had our conversations in regards to, not pitching innings and, not going deeper into games, and it's going to come to fruition. As I said, I think it was going to continue, that they weren't going to go deep into games. We got a lot of guys that don't do it. We had no idea. I mean, if nobody knew that Clay Holmes wasn't going to be gassed the time he got to 90 innings, you are very naive. And you probably drank the David Stearns Kool-Aid. I'm sorry, guys. Like, it's a shitty thing to say, but it's true. The same thing goes for Kodai Senga. He's had one season of being healthy in 2023 where there was no pressure on him. They gave him 7 days off for every start, and the Mets were basically out of it in June. So all they had to do was protect him. And he still got hurt in spring training and was out the entire year and made an appearance or two in the playoffs and right at the end of the season. And then this year, he was good. He was very good. But again, I don't consider a pitcher good if you're going to give me 4 or 5 innings and you're a top 2 starter. If you're a top 2 starter, right? I don't care if you're an ace or a number 2. Both of these guys need to give you length and good starts. It's too far and few between. And this is the reason why I get annoyed when there could have been something done. You want to talk about overpaying for prospects? I don't give a shit about prospects, because the same people that wanted to talk about prospect hugging and don't want to trade this guy, don't want to trade that guy, they'll be the first ones in line to bitch and moan when the Mets lose. And when it's because of the rotation, people are going to blow their minds. They're going to blow their minds, because I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. I don't care if Noah McLean or Brandon Sproat come on this team. If you think that's going to ultimately change this rotation, you have a rude awakening coming. Because as good as they might be, and they might pitch well, you're going to get 4 and 5 innings out of these guys consistently. Not because they can't do it, because the Mets aren't messing with their innings restrictions and not going to make them overpitch in games. This is the problem. This is why when people talk about top prospects, especially pitching, realize what you're getting into when you get these guys called up. If these guys are not stretched out and are not coming up with the team and have a full rotation spot, and you let them pitch, and even then they have kind of semi-restrictions on innings. When you get these guys in the middle of the year or even late in the year, their pitch count, their innings are already up there. They're not throwing them more than 130 to 140 innings. Both of these guys are about 25 to 30 innings away. Like, they're not that far from that. That is basically, if they bring him up on August 15th, that means they can get 3 to 4 starts, most likely, before the playoffs. And even if they pitch well, they're at their cap. They're at their limit. Do you really think they're going to push these guys, if they pitch well, into the playoffs, or even push them now for their final couple of starts of the season? No, they're not going to do that. And if they do that, I would be the most excited Met fan in the world right now. I would be, because you can't bring these kids up and put restrictions on them. And we all know they're going to put the innings restrictions on them. They're not going to pivot from that. Because if they didn't care about the innings, and maybe they care about the control. They clearly care about the control. We understand that. Or the extra year of control. Completely understand that. But your team was in desperate need in June for rotation help, and you weren't willing to bring them up. But you had no problem bringing up Tidwell. You had no bringing up Don Hamill now. I guess you didn't care about those guys' years of control. That doesn't affect you, right? That doesn't matter. When you worry about control over a player and not losing that year of control, before you worry about that more than winning, I don't take you seriously. I truly don't. And somebody said it yesterday. And no, it is not dumb to worry about winning over a control over a player. I don't care about 2029. Does anybody in this chat care about 2029? If you do, don't watch the game at 1 o'clock. Don't watch the game the rest of the season, because you're wasting your time. If your organization is not fully about winning and too focused on worrying about everything else but that, then how do you have confidence going into this final stretch of less than 50 games? I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Why is it so difficult to understand how badly this team needs rotation help? And again, I don't care if Sproat, I don't care if McClain comes up. It really doesn't matter, because it's going to be the same bullshit. They took Holmes out yesterday with 75 pitches. Shomanaya did give up 5 runs, but let him throw. You're already losing 5-0. Like, let him throw. Get that pitch count up to 90 to 95, so his next outing, we don't have to worry about pulling him before 90 pitches. Like, it's just, my mind is blown with this nonsense and the way their thought process is. And this has nothing to do with Mendoza. This is all David Stearns, which is even more annoying. The so-called genius is a freaking idiot, because he has hurt this team every step of the way. He brought all these idiot prospects up that play infield that couldn't play every day because there's a logjam in the infield. They consistently sat on the bench where one guy was sitting, the other guy was playing. The other guy was sitting, the other guy was playing. Back and forth, back and forth. There was maybe twice this year that all 4 of them played at the same time. And then that didn't last. It changed, because you got to get McNeil in there. You got to get other guys in there. It doesn't work. That's why it says, why wouldn't you try to get a starter in here? You didn't work hard enough. I truly believe David Stearns didn't go into this trade deadline worrying about a starter. If it happened to fall into his lap, fine. But he wasn't trying to be aggressive like he was in the bullpen. It just doesn't make sense. I just don't understand the logic at all. And then on top of that, you got a lineup that, whatever we're trying to do with this, whatever we think about this lineup, it is what it is, right? David Stearns didn't want to trade Vientos or Beatty or Acuna or Mauricio. So now you're stuck with them for at least this year. None of them are doing anything, like, at all. Like, Vientos not showing any power again. Brett Beatty is back to his old ways again. Acuna is in the minor leagues. Mauricio's not playing today. Mauricio has been okay. So this is what we're dealing with here. I told you guys, after July 31st, you were stuck with the roster that you wanted. And you got it. Prospect huggers, you should be loving this. You got Mauricio, you got Beatty, you got Vientos. You gotta love it. I mean, it's not like you want to win. You want to live and die with these homegrown guys and these prospects who ultimately don't turn into anything because they're failing. If anybody haven't realized, they fail, right? 6 through 9 has been a complete disaster. 5 through 9 has been a complete disaster. We know about 1 through 4. If they don't get it together, it doesn't matter what happens through 5 through 9. But the big reason why 5 through 9 has failed was because Alvarez sucked. Vientos sucked. Those are supposed to be your 5-6 hitters. Like, that's where it was. That's where they were supposed to be. They're consistently batting, Vientos is batting 5th because nobody's hitting. So you got to try something, right? They're changing up the lineup again today. Lindor's back in the leadoff spot. Juan Soto's back in the number 2. Hey, Pete Alonso's back in the number 3, and Nimmo is the cleanup hitter. The worst possible spot for him. But I'm not mad at Mendoza. Mendoza's trying something. That's all he can do with the top 4 guys. He's changing it up. You're not putting Vientos 4 or lower. You're not putting anybody else 1 through 4. So change it up. He changed it up. He put Lindor back in the leadoff spot. Basically, what you've seen in the beginning of the year, this is the lineup for the top 4. There you go. So he changed it up. All he can do is change it up. There ain't nobody replacing these guys. Let's worry about today that all the fans are going to have up 252 for Pete Alonso. Like I care. I don't. Right? I'll give a golf clap because it's impressive. But ultimately, what does that do? What does that do? Nothing for me. It gives me nothing. So let him go for 252. Let him hit 253 today. Does it help us get a lead? Does it help us win a ball game? Then I care. Because other than that, I don't care. So the lineup is what we've seen in the beginning of the year, probably for the first month. 1 through 4. When it's Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo. I don't like Nimmo in the number 4 spot, but how am I going to blame? Why am I going to get mad at Mendoza when this lineup has been hitting and he's trying every possible combination of those top 4? No problem with it. So change it up, see what happens. This team better win today. Don't get swept by the Guardians. You can't lose 8 of 9. Like, you're spiraling out of control here. The Phillies are starting to run away. Like, that's the way it's starting to feel. You got to find a way to win today. Like, oh, great. Now what? Mendoza's not even going to get off his ass today to take David Peterson out of the game. So let David Peterson be the workhorse and increase his innings because he's going to be your best guy going into the playoffs. Because I told you before, and I'll say it again, it's not going to be Minaya. It's not going to be Kodai Senga. All right? It's not. David Peterson, in my opinion, is your game 1 starter. But yeah, let's continue to throw him out there and let him go deep into games because why not, right? Let's abuse David Peterson here and let's not nobody else do it. There was no reason why Clay Holmes yesterday couldn't go 7th or at least finish the 6th. It made no sense. Even Minaya, when it was 5-0, his pitch count was low. His pitch count was fine. He could have pitched another inning. Like, you got to stretch these guys out. I just don't get it. I'm just so frustrated with the thought process of this. Mendoza is Mendoza. Like, I think he's a very good manager. I think he's had more issues this year than he had last year. But again, the guys at the top of the order, the top 4 guys, they hit last year starting in June. So it was a lot easier to go through the motions when there was no expectation, number 1, last year. This year, a ton of expectations, and everybody has faltered from top to bottom, from the president of baseball ops to the manager to the lineup to the bullpen to the starting rotation. So everybody's failed from top to bottom. And I said it again. David Stearns, he made his bed with this team, right? There's nobody's fault who's on this 26-man roster than him. There is not one position player prospect that has stepped up this year. Not one. Alvarez, we'll see what happens with him. He looks like he figured something out. So I'll give him an opportunity. Vientos, big fail. Beatty, Mauricio, okay. Acuna, well, back in the minor leagues. Great. I'm so frustrated right now, guys. This team better freaking win because post game today, and Chris is most likely going to be on the post game. I tell you guys right now, I know how pissed he is. If you follow Chris on X, please do. True Mets Talk CP, please follow him because he's been saying it too. He said it. This is a must-win game today. You gotta break this rut that we're in. You have to. You gotta salvage this series because we're facing the Brewers tomorrow. The next series. That's not gonna be easy at all, and they're gonna be pissed off because of what we did to them in the playoffs. Let's go. And I think Chris is actually going to Milwaukee, or he's in Wisconsin, I believe, and he's going to at least one of those games. I think he's going to a couple of games in Wisconsin. So, I mean, come on. I'm so frustrated because I said it during the Trade Watch shows. The New York Mets can't go out of the deadline with the logjam that they have in the infield, with all those guys still on this team or in this organization, and not get a starting pitcher, right? It was obvious to everybody that bullpen was – there were so many bullpen guys out there that it was almost impossible for not every contender was going to get bullpen arms because there were so many of them. The hard thing to do was to get the starting pitcher. Just because nobody else did it doesn't mean you stay pat because everybody else did it. Be the one that's different. Overpay. There is nothing wrong with overpaying. Because if that guy comes in here and does the job, nobody's going to give a shit about overpaying. Nobody cared about the overpay when things work out. When things go bad, all right, you're going to talk about the overpay. But at least you tried. Telling me that this rotation is good, you're lying to me. Don't bring up Paul Blackburn's name. Don't damn sure bring up Tyler McGill, which they will very shortly. I don't want to hear those names. You had opportunity to get somebody. You failed. That's it. That's why you came on a half hour after the deadline and try to spill your nonsense to Mets fans and make them drink the Kool-Aid again, which a lot of them believed you. Because as soon as the trade deadline was over, you couldn't wait to talk about the prospects, the pitching prospects, because you failed. You didn't want to overpay for a top starting pitcher on the market, regardless of what name you wanted. You could have got one. They were available. Meet the asking price or be close to it. You failed. And now this team is spiraling out of control. And I got to hear David Stearns talk about, we're not quite there yet, bringing up these top pitching prospects. When are we there? When we got 35 games left and we're 7 games out of a division? That's when we're quite there? I'm sick of it. Sick of it. So are we going to win today, guys? Because I'm not confident. The only thing I'm confident is David Peterson is going to go 6 innings. Now, will he pitch well? I'm pretty confident. I got some confidence in that. Are the Mets going to score? I have no idea. No idea. I don't know what's wrong with this team. What's wrong with this lineup? I just don't understand it. I don't know what's wrong with them. I do know what's wrong with them. They're a streaky bunch. They've always been a streaky bunch. Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso, and Soto's joining the party in his first year as a Met. Nothing's changed with Lindor, Nimmo, and Pete Alonso. Lindor has more than 2 months usually of really good months. Obviously, he had an MVP type season last year from June until the end of the year. So I think Lindor has been starting to hit. He's been pretty good as of late. But Alonso and Nimmo have done the same thing in their entire career, and we're shocked by it. As I said yesterday, Lindor is going to be fine. You could see his better at-bats over the last couple. In his series, he's had very good at-bats. You could see he's on the ball more. He's making better contact. Nice to see. But Alonso and Nimmo have done this their entire career. They have 2 hot months during a season, and the other 4, one of them might be average, the others are below average. And then, those hot months basically pad their stats for the year. And we act like it's going to change when they're the exact player every single year. Every single year. And we're shocked by it. They do the same thing every year. Look at their numbers month to month. They'll have 2 great months, an average month, and then below average months for the remaining 3. That's what happens every single year with these 2 guys. Nimmo has, in his last 10 games, he has 18 strikeouts. I think he has a 430 OPS. Terrible. Couple of RBIs. Like, and Alonso's not that much better. Like, these guys do the same shit every year, and then we glorify these guys like they're royalty. They're very good players. Not one of them is a superstar. Not one of them is good enough to warrant MVP votes. Even Pete Alonso, for you Pete Alonso fans out there. Because he is not liked around the league. That's why he doesn't get contracts, long-term deals from other teams, which I find it very hard to believe somebody's going to give him a long-term deal next year. He isn't a guy that is consistent enough. He pads his stats for 2 out of the 6 months. And then we talk about the home run record for the Mets like it means anything. It doesn't. All you're going to do is get it in the Mets Hall of Fame in Citi Field and get a nice little plaque and probably the bat and his cleats and the ball possibly and the helmet and the jersey. And that's all you're going to – that's the best hardware you're going to get to memorialize Pete Alonso. Because I don't give a shit about that. Like, I just don't. Like, I don't go into the game thinking, you know what? Wow, Pete Alonso's going to possibly hit 252 and 253 and beat the record. I'm not going into a game like that. There's too many people that go to the games and act like that's what they want to see. You want to see a win. If that happens during it, sure, great. But if he hits 253, like if he hits 2 home runs today and beats the record, beats Strawberry's record, but we lose, who's going to be happy? Not me. Some people will, because all they care about is individual records, clearly. So, and no, Bob, it's not about cutting him. It's just the fact that we put these guys on pedestals. They've won nothing for us, by the way. I don't know if you understand that. We haven't won. Like, do we understand that? Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo have been here for more losing seasons than winning seasons. And we act like it's okay. And then we wonder why we're called little brother. And why Yankee fans laugh at Met fans. Even though they're not doing too much better. But we act like we're bigger than we are. We're better than what we are. We're not. We've been a losing organization. And Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo have been a big part of the losing conversation over their tenure with the Mets. You want to talk about 2022? That's a big choke job. Who's the big boys in that team? Nimmo and Pete Alonso, along with Lindor. So with all the expectations this year, if we fail again, nobody's going to blame Pete Alonso. They'll blame Lindor. They'll blame Juan Soto. Even though Pete Alonso has been here for the longest, couldn't get the captain, letter or mantra or anybody calling Pete Alonso the captain because he's not a leader. And Lindor, who was traded here, is considered the captain and the leader. And Brandon Nimmo is more of the vocal leader. And Pete Alonso's just there, trying to hit home runs. And is he going to hit 35 home runs this year? So, yeah, but you know what? Lindor was an MVP candidate last year, right? I'm pretty sure, and I'm very confident that Lindor is going to heat up, and he's going to have probably in the next couple of months a really damn good. You know why? Because he's done it. Pete Alonso folds during these months. Now, as I said in the other shows, Alonso, Lindor, Soto, they got great numbers in the playoffs. Obviously, Alonso doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, but during the games he's played, he has good numbers. Lindor and Alonso are very good, if not elite, in the playoffs. So this is why I don't get why, like, people are going to go to the highest paid player and say it's his fault all the time. They did it to Lindor. They did it to Lindor last year until June. April and May, everybody's saying overpaid Lindor, overrated, all that stuff. Now we sing the song. So like it can change rather quickly. Now, do I think these guys can get into the playoffs and do what they do in the playoffs because they've done it? Yes, I think they do. But you also can't lose a division here that the Phillies were basically giving you. They weren't playing well. They were kind of in between for basically the entire year. And now they're looking like they're playing a lot better. They're like a cohesive bunch. They're playing like a team because I think they feel just like I felt about them. They're kind of at the end of their road, right? Their best power hitter in Kyle Schwarber is a free agent, right? They're getting older. A couple of free agents are coming off the books. Like that team can be, breaking up soon. So they feel that urgency, and that's a dangerous game to play. That's a dangerous team to face. With facing that urgency and feeling like there's no tomorrow, that's a dangerous team to face. And look, they're looking for revenge, guys. Like, last year was great, but even they didn't believe the Mets were better than them, which I thought was a joke. You lost, but they didn't believe the Mets were better than them. And I think they still believe they're better than the Mets. Now, that's yet to be determined, but if they win a division, they were during the season, and who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs. As I said, I think the playoffs are crapshoots. I don't think the best team wins every single time, and it's rare in baseball now. I think the hot teams, like the Mets were in the playoffs, have those runs. I don't think the Mets were overly better than the Philadelphia Phillies overall, but they were better in that series. You know what? Because I was at work, so I know Mendoza was on WFAN with Salicata, and Salicata said he was going to ask him a question about Eric Chavez, so I wonder what Mendoza said about that. But, I mean, like, do you really think it's going to change if Eric Chavez gets fired, guys? Like, when the Mets are hitting, nobody's giving credit to Eric Chavez, so why is he getting the blame? That's what I don't understand. Like, when Pete Alonso was red hot for 2 months in April and May, where was the credit given to Eric Chavez? There was none. When Juan Soto was having a great month, nobody was giving credit to Eric Chavez. When Nimmo in July was having a great month, nobody gave credit to Eric Chavez. So why give him the blame when things are not working out? He's a scapegoat. That's what he is. If that makes you feel better, it's ultimately not going to change how they are hitting. It's just not. Like, in my opinion, pitching coaches are more important, I think, in the mental aspect of the game than hitting coaches are. I think hitting coaches there are just to collect the check and, stand behind the batting cage and just, say, hey, how do you feel at the plate? How was that change that you made? Because you think these players are asking coaches or even Chavez, hey, do you think I should change my stance? You think I should move my hands up or down on, a little higher, a little lower? Maybe move my hands on the bat a little bit? No. They're not. They're doing it on their own, in the cages, in the tunnels. That's when they're doing it. They're making their own decisions when to change things up. So ultimately, I'm not blaming Eric Chavez. People need a scapegoat, right? This has been through world history and through time. Everybody needs a scapegoat, from government to sports to family. Everybody needs somebody to blame. So the easiest way to blame, right? You can't fire Pete Alonso. You can't fire Juan Soto or Nimmo or Lindor or anybody else on this roster. So the easiest people to blame and to become the scapegoat are the easiest guys to fire, like the hitting coach. So, sure, Dolo, again, I don't mind if he goes. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to change until these guys wake the hell up. So, sure, maybe Charlie Manuel, but even what's his name, Kevin Long, right? The Mets offense was really good, and then I think he went to the Nationals or somebody. He went somewhere else. I forgot where he went, but like we're giving way too much credit and more blame to Chavez than the players, because they make their changes. They do different things with their hands, with the bat, and where to place their hands, higher or lower at the plate, stands different places in the box. They do all that. They're not going to Eric Chavez and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do." Like, what is Eric Chavez going to say? Okay, that's what he's going to say. Yeah, Andola, maybe it will spark the team. I find it very hard to believe. I think firing a manager could be a huge difference, but I don't think Mendoza's done a terrible job. I just think that it's his second season, right? Everything was sunshine and rainbows last year because everything he touched worked. This year, he's going through a little adversity, but he's a second-year manager. So, you can't love him last year and now want him fired this year. It doesn't make sense. So, you're not firing Mendoza. You can't fire the players. So, Eric Chavez is a scapegoat. And fine, get rid of him. It might work for a series. After that, it's going to go back to status quo. Because it's just, well, okay, my holy. Was Mendoza a puppet last year? Did anybody talk about him being a puppet last year when everything every move he made was working? No. So again, he's not a puppet. I think he does make the lineup. I think that him and Stearns are kind of like 1-1. I really feel like they're on the same page with that, even though I don't like certain things they do with like taking guys out at certain times, pitchers and all that. But they're on the same page, and that could be a good thing, considering that there's no like animosity between the guys, which is important. But I don't think the philosophy is good. So, but again, I can't change that. All I can do is complain about it, or either complain or just deal with it. And I'm doing both. I can't change it, so I got to deal with it. But I'm going to bitch about it because I have a show, I have a channel. You guys are here to hear me talk and have a conversation with each other. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, one, I think people do hold them responsible, but not to the point where Pete Alonso gets glorified for doing what? Smiles, acts like a doofus, which is fine. That's his personality, right? He's a very good player, but he's not a superstar. He's a all-star for the Mets, which, what is that really saying? He's not a superstar. He's a very good player that pads his stats in the hottest months of the year. He picks 2 months out of the season, and that's his hottest months where he goes buck wild. And then he has average months or below average months for the final 4. And when you look at the end of the stats, and that's why when people just throw stats at you, and you're like, didn't you watch this whole season? Like, you can't tell me, here are the stats, this is what this player does, he's great. I've watched 162 games of Pete Alonso and other guys, Brandon Nimmo. These guys consistently do the same thing. They have 2 really hot months and average to below average rest of the year. And because of those hot months, they pad their stats to the point where like they can have below average months every single month after that and still put up really good numbers. But ultimately, if you watch the game every day, if you watch 162 games, you realize that they're nowhere to be found in this lineup. Like Brandon Nimmo is nowhere to be found over the last 2 weeks. And it's probably going to continue because that's what he does. Same thing with Pete Alonso. He's nowhere to be found in this lineup right now. So, same thing with Juan Soto. Nowhere to be found. Lindor, nowhere to be found. But again, Lindor and Soto are guys that, consistently get MVP votes. Those guys figure out a way to do it. I don't know how, but they ultimately do. Like I am more worried about Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo than I am about Lindor and Juan Soto. Why? Because I've seen them having tough year and then pick it up when it matters the most. Now you could say, well, today matters the most. Absolutely. But those guys have continuously done it in their career. When I've seen Nimmo and Pete Alonso be a part of the team that have collapsed in 2022, along with Lindor. But if you look at the numbers of that year, Lindor had one of the better months than Nimmo and Pete Alonso. But overall, they all got to figure it out. Like they all got to go to dinner and say, hey, you got a pair of balls? You got a pair of balls? You got a pair of balls. Okay, great. Let's act like we're playing baseball here and act like the best players on the team, right? Because there's too many people also that are bitching and moaning about guys like, that are batting 6.29 when we wouldn't be talking about guys batting 6.29 if the guys at top did their job. Yeah, Juan, they're still getting paid, but I don't think they just don't want to win. Like, there's a competitive nature to it, too, even though they get paid a ton of money. Like, there would be no emotion if all they cared about is getting a paycheck and just finishing the game. Like, there's emotion there. We see it. Like, did you see, was it yesterday? No. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I think it was the first game of the Cleveland series where Juan Soto had a pitch to hit. It was like right there, middle in, and he rolled it over the second base, and he threw his bat on the ground. He's pissed off, and I want to see that from him. People say he's doesn't show no emotion. He showed it there. Like, and when Lindor hit into that double play where they made a great play yesterday, the ball up the middle, there were some people who were like, why is he smiling? He wasn't smiling because he's just happy to play baseball. He was smiling because he thought he had a hit in a hit where it could have, continued the inning, and a great play ended the inning. So he's laughing, he's smiling, saying, what do I have to do? So it is what it is. These guys got to figure it out. If they don't figure it out, we're going to be talking about a failed season in a big expectation type of year. So in about 10 minutes or so, the Mets and Guardians play the finale of the series. The Guardians are looking to sweep the Mets. The Mets are trying to salvage this series before they head to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where our boy CP will be there. I don't know. Maybe CP can hit. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk to him in the post game. Let's see if he can, talk to Mendoza and say, listen, bat me third. Can you pitch? Like, can he throw 6 innings? Like, but overall, guys, they need to figure it out. This is a must-win game, right? You got a 2.5 game deficit in the NL East. The Phillies are playing better, and you're down 2.5 games in the division. You're comfortable. You're a little giddy, but you're a little uncomfortable in the wild card. But you're kind of like okay for the time being. But, another stretch of games, another 3-4 games of losing 3 out of 4, and you lost 9 out of 10 or 11 out of 12, you can find yourself in a situation where you'd be like, oh, shit, we don't start playing better. We might miss the playoffs. And that would be an utter disaster. Let the Yankees fall apart and choke when they had a huge lead in the division. So let's hope that somebody figures it out today. I think the only confidence I have today is David Peterson. I know even if he doesn't pitch great, he's going to tough it through 6 innings. And that's what a real pitcher does. That's what a real starting pitcher does. This team has barely 2 real starting pitchers on this team. And that's probably Sean Manaea and David Peterson. So, I'll see you on the post-game show, guys. Enjoy the game. A little bit of day baseball for us. I'll see you on the post-game show right after the game. Hopefully, we're talking about a Mets win, because if not, me and my boy Chris are really going to be very angry. And we've been angry for a while now with this damn team. So enjoy the game, guys. Let's go Mets, and I'll see you on the post-game show, guys. Let's go Mets.
7 train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, miss.